So I hope the presentation is visible. Thank you so much. My warm regards to all the distinguished participants in this webinar, and thanks to all the organizers for inviting me for this presentation here. It is indeed a great honor for me to be talking on this auspicious day, the 151st birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, father of our nation. And the topic that I have chosen is Gandhi Science, Sustainability, and Grassroots Innovation. Uh, I do not claim to be an expert on Gandhian values and Gandhian thought. However, this is one area of interest for me, and grassroots innovation has been my work for the last 15 years. Hence, I thought, let me marry both of them and see what emerges. So, Gandhiji for me has been a very good disruptive innovator. We have seen his experiments in social life, political life, and he has had some very strong views on science, technology, and sustainability and sustainable development. But many Indian authors, experts, and many Western experts have criticized him for his views, primarily because they may not have been able to understand and appreciate the foresight with which he mentioned those at that time. So Gandhiji was not averse to science. He was in favor of science, but he wanted science to be accountable, the practitioner of science to be accountable to the people, to the nature. He understood that science will always have limitations and people will also have limitations, but then there has to be a fine line which has to be never crossed. He focused on human-centric technological development. The scale of industrial revolution in the West, he believed that the same scale or the same type of industrial revolution may not be suitable for a country like India, where majority of its population lives in the villages with very basic amenities, and at many places almost very little amenities and other things that are available to them. So that was his view. He wanted the paradigm of development to be of a very long term, in which the planners they take into view people, humans, nature, and the society. Unless and until you keep in mind all these three things, the development that we are planning on a long term basis would never be sustainable. That is what he believed. There is an interesting episode during the Dandi March. Once he was walking, and there was one gentleman who came from a nearby village riding on his motorcycle, and he wanted to offer Gandhiji some oranges. So Gandhiji did not accept the oranges. He said that you are nearby and you could have walked to me to give these oranges rather than using your motorcycle. So the message was very simple and very clear. Technology is to be an enabler only, and technology is to be used whenever it is required. Whenever it is not required, we should stick to our basics and do things that are easier for us to do in the interest of the environment, in the interest of the nature. Like Professor Sanyal sir has already mentioned Swaraj. Gandhiji said this can only happen at three levels: Swaraj, internal Swaraj. Once we free ourselves of the foundations that we impose on ourselves as an individuals, then as a community, Gram Swaraj, where a village is self-sufficient, capable of producing everything that it needs for its use. And then Sarvodaya. Sarv is everybody, Uday is rise. And then when we do this, everybody will rise. So he was not in favor of benefiting a particular group or a people. He was in favor of benefiting everybody. Even when in 1936, when this Seva Gram ashram was being set up, he had specially advised all the people who were involved in building the ashram to bring the raw material for building the ashram within a 5 kilometer radius. So that is how sustainability comes when you are using local resources for your own local purpose. In fact, he had put a price cap of 100 rupees. Uh, Mirabai, who was developing her hut, so he had put a price cap of 100 rupees so that she doesn't go beyond that money, beyond that expense limit, because he knew that out of affection for him, she would probably try to indulge in certain things which may not make him feel better once this hut was made. So, the sustainable development uh, paradigm which Gandhi ji has espoused, has talked about in many of his talks, he specifically mentions that you cannot isolate man from his community and nature. There has to be a harmonious coexistence and proper drawing of resources for various purposes. So, from science, technology, sustainable development to innovation, Gandhi ji was a technologist, in my view, and a great innovator. In 1929, he had announced a charkha design competition. Charkha, as you all know, is a symbol of has been a symbol of resistance during those time. Uh, we had civil disobedience movement, we had Swadeshi movement. So Gandhi ji got this Charkha tested and realized that there were certain demerits associated with the present form of the Charkha. So he, along with his other colleagues, he announced a Charkha design competition for which he had announced 1 lakh rupees award at that point of time, which would be many millions today. And he was very particular about his requirement, very specific, very particular, very clearly mentions what are the requirements. Like chakra should be lightweight, a lady in the village should be able to work on it for 8 hours, and it should be able to accommodate the puni for the handspun cloth, and the output which is expected of this charkha, what should be the cost, and what amount should one be willing to spend in servicing, and it should last for a period of 20 years. So if you see, so much clarity of thought in designing a simple advertisement. And not only this is about technology, but he also had in mind intellectual property rights. So he said that if you want to win the award, you have to declare it open source so that we can use it, we can combine it with some other salient features of some other submissions. But if you don't want an award, then certainly uh, you can file a patent in your name and continue with it. So this was something very interesting, probably the first innovation competition anywhere in the world, particularly in the India, where crowdsourcing of ideas was initiated. So from innovation to grassroots innovators. So essentially, before I move on to other things, I wanted to talk about grassroots innovators because I'm trying to put in context the values of Gandhi ji in context of grassroots innovation scenario in in India. So who are the people? Who are those whom we call as grassroots innovators? So these are essentially those people who don't see the world in the way that we see. So they are not using the same lens. They are not using the same way to look at things. So they are looking at things from a very different perspective that an ordinary person may not be looking at. So they are spotting problems, they are developing solutions, and most of the grassroots innovators, they are solitary reapers. They are developing solutions on their own without much support from the market, without much support from the government. They are doing this based on their own interests, sometimes based on the various problems that they face or their family faces or somebody else in their neighborhood or in general the society faces. So these are such kind of people who are continuously spotting problems and then coming up with their ingenious solutions for the same. So I used PowerPoint to make a small caricature of Mahatma Gandhi and put it against the different activities that my organization, the organization that I represent, National Innovation Foundation, which is an organization of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. So why I feel the kind of work that we are been doing is very similar to the things that Gandhi ji had mentioned long time back. See, India at that point of time had about 7 lakh villages with more than 75% population living in the villages and largely an informal sector economy. The condition today has not much improved. We still have about 6.5 lakh villages, and about 70% of our population resides in villages, and the informal economy is more than 80% of the total GDP. So what essentially our organization is doing, so we are trying to identify informal sector innovations, technological innovations, innovations from people who are mostly school dropouts, who don't have any formal training or education, and they develop these using local resources. Whatever resources are available to them, they are usually such people who are living in resource constrained environments, and thus innovation becomes imperative for them. The kind of incubation that we provide is in situ innovation. Most of our innovators, they are living, they are staying, they are from the villages, rural areas, or semi-urban areas. So whatever support, technical, mentoring, financial we have to provide, we are providing them at their doorsteps so that they can grow wherever they are and excel and contribute to the local, regional, or the village economy. So when we identify such innovations from different parts of the country, we shortlist them, and then with the help of institutions, R&D institutions, science and technology institutions, we get them evaluated, thereby building a excuse me, thereby building a bridge between the informal systems of innovation and the excellence in formal systems. The model that we follow is land to lab to land model. The innovations of people, they get reviewed, evaluated, refined, evaluated by the experts, and then they are diffused back to the people in the same area or in different areas. So this is what we have done in the last 20 years. We have built probably the world's largest database of technological ideas innovations with over 3 lakh entries. We have partnerships with ICMR, CSR, ICR, IITs, due to which we are able to validate a large number of technologies every year. We file anything between 50 to 80 patents every year. We have filed approximately 1,200 patents, of which 168 have been granted. And then we also support innovators, these grassroots innovators, for commercialization of technologies. We have a technology business incubator called NIFINTRIC, NANAF Innovation Incubation and Entrepreneurship Council. And we also facilitate social diffusion of technologies. I will come to that in a later slide. So last 2-3 months, Vocal for Local and Atmanirbhar Bharat, these have been the buzzword, and Professor Sanyal sir had rightly mentioned. So this is not something new. Gandhi ji had mentioned this long time back, 70, 80 decades back, and the National Innovation Foundation has been indulging in these exercise, uh, being vocal for the local innovations, helping sustainable livelihood opportunities for the innovators and for the people since the year of its inception in 2000. Some 4 or 5 examples of innovations I wanted to show you, and I'll begin with one of the oldest and the most simple but very useful. As you see, this is a pulley. The design of the pulley had been frozen for centuries. So this gentleman, Amrut Bhai Agrawat from Gujarat, in one of our brainstorming sessions, we identified a problem that the ladies, they have rope burns if the level of water in the well is very low. So they have to hold it for some time, they get tired and they get rope burns. So this gentleman, he simply added a small attachment which prevents the downward motion of the filled water bucket, and that problem got solved. So he not only got our national award, but he also later went on to win the Asia Innovation Award in the year 2005. Simple innovation, but very practical. And before him, nobody had thought about it. So Padam Shri Chintakindi Mallesham, he was recognized with Padam Shri in 2016, and we recognized him in 2009. He Pochampalli sari tradition, like we have Banarsi, Kanchipuram sari, is a tradition in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. So there's a process of yarn making called the asu. If you see on the left, where a woman has to move her hands 9,000 times for 4 to 5 hours every day just to make that yarn. So Mallesham ji, he saw his mother doing it as a child, and he vowed that he will get his mother rid of this problem and all the other mothers in his society. So he developed this ASU making machine, which has mechanized and automized this process, and the women folk have got rid of this problem. They can spend time with their family, and this process has also doubled the income of the weavers. Earlier, during a day, only two such ASU yarns could be made using manual work, but now 6 to 7 such yarns could be made. So the number of saris that weavers can produce has increased. So salt workers in Gujarat, if you go to the run of Kutch and Amreli side, you will see large salt pans. Salt workers are one of the most poor uh, people in the country. The salt that we purchased, they get per kg 25 paisa, 30 paisa, or 50 paisa only. So this is a season, salt season, where for 6 to 8 months they work. They have to draw up the brine, salty water, and then they have these salt pans where they spread this, leave this water, and due to the sun's heat, this water, they move it around very frequently, so the salt crystallizes. So traditionally, this is done using the counterpoise method, where a lady generally, where a lady is pulling up water, drawing up water using a counterpoise, and some people now use diesel engine, which results in a lot of pollution in the region. So we have two brothers from Assam. So they had devised a bamboo windmill for drawing up water for irrigation. So we realized the potential of that windmill in the salt farms, and Gyan, one of our partner institutions, Gyan West, together we installed about 50 such windmills in the run of Kutch and Amreli region, where without consuming any energy, without consuming, without having any manual labor, without polluting the environment, the same purpose could be achieved. So we all eat walnuts, but not many of us will know how it is produced. So traditionally, even today, traditionally and even till now, the walnuts are processed manually in Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, which is the largest producer of walnuts. So you see this fruit, it is green color fruit, under inside which you get these walnuts that we purchase in the market. So these walnuts have to be green walnuts have to be cracked open using hand. So they have a certain chemical which oozes out and which dyes hand into a pinkish color. Now the skin also starts peeling out, and this problem remains for 3 to 4 months. In this process, mostly women and children are employed there, but there has been very little innovation to mechanize this process or automate this process so that the ladies they can get rid of their problems. The other thing is to crack these walnuts. The only process is manual process using hammers and stones in the villages. There was no machine of uh, a local nature which could be used in villages. There are machines which are available, but which are industrial use machines, but not small machines which can be used by a cluster of walnut farmers or in villages. So Mushtaq Ahmed Dar, a young innovator from Anantnag, Kashmir, he saw this problem in his family and in his neighborhood, and he came up with this walnut huller, which could crack the green walnuts, and the walnut cracker, which can crack the walnuts up to 85% efficiency. So these have to be very carefully cracked. Otherwise, if the kernel inside gets broken, it will not fetch good price. Uh, Gender neutral technologies. History has shown us that wherever there was manual labor and mechanization was there, these tasks were automatically picked up by men, and the women folk were again left to fend themselves with menial manual tasks. A lot of examples we'll have. So this gentleman, DN Venkat from Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, has developed a tree climber which can be used to climb various kind of coconut, areca nut, palmyra trees. So this is a specialized work which was being done by tree climbers, but now due to their shifting to some other professions, their numbers has drastically decreased. So this particular innovation facilitates anybody. This is not a gender friendly technology. This is a gender neutral technology. So a couple of examples from children. All of us may be knowing about sickles used by our farmers in our fields. Most of the time, the fields are outside the village or further away. We never realized that if a farmer, if he gets hurt in the field, what first aid is available to him. So this particular boy, he gave an idea which we prototyped, that in the handle of this sickle, why can't there be a first aid kit so that a farmer can use it in case of an That's a simple idea, but we
Yeah.
never thought about it.
Nitin,
Sir,
we have to consider time. So just think about that.
yes, you mean to say I need to move fast?
Yes.
Yes, okay, give me 2 minutes.
No, give you 3 minutes.
Okay, fine. So we all must have used water taps in our schools, all at the same height, taller students, shorter students, everybody using the same height, taps of the same height. This young girl, she gave an idea, why can't we have taps at different heights so that children of different heights can use the tap suitable for their height. So this is one example from herbal technology from a herbal healer from Tamil Nadu, which I wanted to give. In allopathy, the only treatment for cataract is operation. Now, this lady, she has developed a formulation which we have tested and which is in product we have developed and which is into clinical trials. Within a month, it can resolve the cataract of the eye. So these are some other activities I'll quickly go through. We, in partnership with the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Department of Science and Technology, we organize this Festival of Innovation every year. Last it was organized in 2019. In 2020, we could not do it because of the COVID. And we also have this Innovation Scholar in Residence program, where select group of innovators, they are provided residency by the Rashtrapati Bhavan. So dissemination and social diffusion, we are into activities of diffusion of these grassroots innovations of the innovators in different areas where there can be used. Since these have been developed by the people, so the acceptability among the people is more, and wherever it is required, we try to localize the technology to suit the local interest or local requirement. For example, this particular rural egg incubator is developed by innovator from Assam. We found its use in Nagaland to dry large cardamom. There was a requirement of a dry for large cardamom. So the concept is same, temperature, regulation of temperature. So we converted this into a cardamom dryer and now into a multi-purpose dryer. So this is the scheme of Inspire for the school students, class 6 to 10, being coordinated by NIF. We are also the core group member of the National Entrepreneurship Awards. 2020, we were the lead partners, but this didn't happen. So next year it will happen. We are also active at the international level at the BRICS and multilateral bilateral cooperation. So we are developing a grassroots innovation portal for the ASEAN countries where innovations from ASEAN countries and India could be listed, and whichever innovation is useful, we can facilitate that process of technology transfer. A number of our innovators whom we have recognized and supported earlier, the government of India has awarded them, recognized them. And Padman, a recent Padman movie that was released 2018, we had supported this innovator in 2005 and awarded in 2007. Some of the innovations that we have supported were also profiled in Three Idiots movie. So we are trying to situate through various means the importance of grassroots innovation in the minds of people. In fact, the Global Innovation Index 2017 mentioned grassroots innovations. For the first time, the importance of grassroots innovations was acknowledged by WIPO. And with this, I come to the end of my presentation. So if you see, this is a living root bridge from Meghalaya, which I have used here. Generally, people come here and see it is an artifact. They get them their photographs clicked, but this is a testimony to the tremendous ingenuity of common people, Khasi and Jaintia tribes, who understood the importance, who understood the properties of a particular ficus tree. They realized, they learned, experimented, and they were able to build such living root bridges which have survived 500, 600 years, and in situations where even the conventional steel bridges they get broken down in 30, 40, 50 years.